I don't think I really need this one.
Oh,
Can
no,
you
no.
hear at the back?
In the back.
Yes,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
The mic one very strong one, Zaina.
Yeah, okay, I'm good without the mic. So it's really indeed my pleasure to be here and to become part of this process, this observation. It's not really even because today is the day that we already reflected 14 people they were killed in Montreal. And then it's December 6th. So when I was writing this morning to email to one of my friends, because we always share on December 6th, like how we feel about gender justice and gender violence, then I thought, oh, today is 6th. Then this is a perfect timing to have some dialogues, to hear valuable, remarkable, incredibly powerful insights from our 3 youth speakers. It's just so beautifully, you are so eloquent. And I don't live in the digital world, I know. We are living in the digital world, especially after COVID-19, but I have to be honest with you, I'm not a tech savvy person. I'm still in old kind of fashion, using all part of PowerPoint, but I feel that how important it is to have that basic understanding of digital sexual violence and its impacts and implications on people's life. So thank you for educating us today. It's really important for me to learn from youth as a lifelong learner. Okay, so moving on, I know we already started our event today by doing the land acknowledgement. I also would like to do the land acknowledgement that we are gathering in the unceded and territorial land of Coast people who allowed me to work, live, and learn and unlearn some of our colonial imperialism impacts on indigenous families and lives and intergenerational trauma. So I really appreciate for the communities. And at the same time, I also would like to recognize or reflect on the big tragedy that we had happen in Canada. And these are the 14 names that I just shared with you. Okay, this is my positionality. Because I'm bringing you, now I know everybody is here. Who is not here in Nepal? Anyone is here in Nepal? Like anybody? The youth, you have been in Nepal? You have been in Nepal, right? So, okay. So, my focus is I'm going to give you a tour to Nepal now. Not necessarily shifting from Canadian perspectives, but also bringing you some different perspectives that what is happening in our original country that we came from. And when we talk about participatory research approach, I always feel that it's really important for me to share my positionality so I can see my bias when I do research with communities. And so this is like me, my positionality. I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I'm a grandmother. So this little boy is my grandchild. And then another pathway to this academic research, academic career, that I always see myself as a community organizer. Yes, I'm an assistant professor with the School of Social Work and Human Services, but I consider myself as a community builder, community organizer, and this is one of the great platforms I can claim that I can support this type of event. And then immigrant, of course my accent is different, right? And then I cannot twitch my tongue in the same manner as native speakers do. And then also I don't know the details of hockey games, pop culture, I don't know. And then it reminds me to think, okay, Rita, you are still immigrant. No matter how long you have been here in Canada, but still I'm an immigrant. And I'm so proud of being an immigrant. And I don't know if you know the Paulo Freire. I don't know how many people have heard Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire is a popular educator, Brazilian philosopher. He talks about popular education. And it might apply especially for us as immigrants, because when we completed our degree in Nepal, and then we came here as an immigrant, and we thought it's really important for us to go back to school. Either it's vocational learning or academic learning. Then he's the one who says life is as a lifelong learning process. Age doesn't matter. Popular education, there are so many ways that people can learn. And this is why I can claim I do the participatory action research, because I'm grounded on his philosophy, on his narratives. And also you can see the picture of Lumini. I'm a spiritual person. I don't know if I'm a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And then once a year I go to Lumini and have some, I know, honorable distinguished guest. He talked about not to focus on monologue, focus on dialogues. So I always have critical dialogues with the spiritual teachers, Buddhist monks in Lumini, to talk about how Buddhism has promoted or helped us to promote gender justice, because there are some kind of rules within the Buddhist religion. So this is me. This is how I see myself as a participatory research approach person. And then you can see the picture on the right hand side. We had a huge earthquake in 2016, and then after that we came as a group in solidarity. Lots of community people from Calgary. I was in Calgary at that time, and then some community people from Nepali community, University of Calgary, and then also other communities. We came together, and then we made food, and we sold the food and made some funding, and then we send the money to support some of the victims of earthquake. So this is how I can see myself as grounded in community person rather than university person. So we talk about, since we started our event today, we have been talking about gender justice or gender justice violence or gender violence. So I would like to bring your attention that gender is socially constructed ideology. It's not biological river. It's not at all. What does that mean? Society decide which resources men and women can access, the work they can perform, the clothes they wear, whether and how they access and use knowledge. Even I can see that I have a grandchild in my home, and the first thing my husband and my family brought is a small car. You can see that, right? Because he's a boy, so he can drive a car. So he needs my husband brought a car, a small car. And I'm like, okay, you didn't bring a toy or doll. And now, believe me, he doesn't want to play with the doll. He doesn't like that. You watch it all the racing cars, motorcycle cars, but he doesn't play with dolls. So this is how we define gender, because we society perpetuate that, okay, you are a boy and you are a girl. You can play with a toy, you can play with a doll, or you can play with a car or ball, soccer ball. My grandson goes to soccer play, like not every Saturday, but once a while. So this is how we tell our youth, our children that, okay, you are a girl, you have to be mindful that as a girl, you have to do some certain things. That applies to me, that would probably apply to you, coming from patriarchy paradigm from Nepal. And I know I really appreciate men who are out here. It's not, I really want to invite you some encounter narratives. If there are anything that you would like to challenge me, I'm happy to be challenged. I'm happy to hear encounter narratives. But this is how we are grown up. And that is gender. This is how we define gender. Sex is different. Sex is biological difference. But gender is like, she mentioned earlier that, oh, you cannot do that, or you can do that. This is gender. This is how we are experiencing lots of gender injustice, gender inequality in our life, because society, we are ingrained in our patriarchal societal fields. I'm not going to go all the details. I know some people need to leave early. So what does that mean, gender then? How do we define gender? So gender is the way society is defined. It's a roles. That's your role. Like we talk about cooking and taking care of children. I'm glad that our MC, he said that he was taking care of baby. I'm like, great job. It's not only women's job, right? So responsibilities and right for boys. What is the rights for boys and what is the right for girls? This is how we decide. That is gender. This is how we call gender. And it is very contextual and it is very much time specific. In Nepal, the way we define gender justice is completely different or slightly different here in Canadian context. So gender justice, when we talk about gender justice, is different in Canadian context and in Nepal context because we are inherently grounded in patriarchal paradigms, and then we can see that most of the policies and then individual behaviors towards gender inequality lean towards that because we can see that parental properties is still, it goes to men, right? So these are the small, we don't need to talk about all these things, but this is how we can talk about gender. Gender is part of the social structure of society. It is exemplified in schools, in religion, in economy, and in its institutional behaviors. How many women are taking a role of executive director? I'm so happy to hear that at the legislature level there are 60% female. 50? Okay, sorry. My math is always bad. Anyway.
More than 50. That's what she was meaning.
My math is, I'm not surprised. My math is always
exact
bad.
60, but more than 50.
Okay, so this is really interesting, right? But let's go back to Nepal. Now there is a Samanupati, but it's still what Samanupati is. I still don't know how to define that. So, and that attributes reflects in our individual behavior. That's why we call gender inequality, gender injustice, and we need gender justice. If I'm too fast or if I'm too philosophical, please just raise your hand because I like to be more interactive and engaging, so you can interject me anytime and ask questions. Because I'm so passionate about the topic and sometimes I go so fast. Okay, so what is gender-based violence? We have been talking since for almost 2 hours. So what is gender-based violence then? According to the UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women, 1993 talks about any act that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. So using this definition, then I'm going to share with you my work experience with trafficking survivors who had been trafficked to brothels in India. In Nepal, brothels are not legalized. We don't have brothels in Nepal, and also in Canada, brothels are not legalized. But in the Nepali women, girls and women, they are still trafficked to different countries. Nowadays, the pattern is changed. It's not only to India. It's not, I would say majority girls and women are trafficked to the Middle East countries. Very few people, they are trafficked to Canada and US or European countries because of the visa problem, right? We can't get the visa. However, human smuggling is rampant, is everywhere. So I would like to invite you to think about in two different ways. One is human trafficking and one is human smuggling, because British Columbia is one of the four high provinces. There are four high provinces, British Columbia, Nova Scotia, Quebec, and Ontario, for human smuggling and human trafficking. So it doesn't mean that Nepali people are not trafficked, and we shouldn't be knowing about this, right? Of course, this is as a citizen, it's really important for us to understand what human trafficking and what human smuggling is. There are some people, Nepali people, who are here as part of human smuggling. Human smuggling is a volunteer, and human trafficking is completely involuntary. There is coercion. There is money involved in human smuggling. People who come to Canada, they pay to the agency to come here. They come through illegal way. But human trafficking is completely involuntary. They don't know where they are going. They have no clue, and especially for those people who are, I don't want to use the word illiterate, but still, people who can't read and write even in Nepali language, it becomes more challenge when they are transporting from one place to another place. So this is called human trafficking. And this is, I would claim that, maybe it's my bias, I would claim that this is one of the most vulnerable communities, groups who are trafficked to brothels and work as a sex trade worker and sleep with more than 40 men in a day. That's the narratives I'm bringing to you to share with you today. So that's really powerful, and it's not powerful because I did that, but it's because it's a research paradigm is different. I don't want to do the research for the sake of research. I want to do the research with the communities, and I know I heard from the guests several times, community-led, and this is why I want to talk about community-led initiatives. I can see that here, Raju sir and Susila ji and some other women, we came together as a community-led, but also it would be wonderful if some youth come together and then have some dialogues around that, right? So this is more important, and this is the time for us to shift the paradigm to more focus on the community who are experiencing those type of challenges. Okay, so I'm just going to be talking about the case example, and then I would also briefly touch base on how men as allies, they come together, they come in solidarity and work with me to say that, Rita, this is really important that we have to be part of this anti-human trafficking initiatives in the case of Nepal. Okay, so this is a map of Nepal, we know that, and so I'll just briefly talk about this finding. Some of you may have seen this diagram. So this is the research. I'm not going to go through the root causes of human trafficking. We all know that poverty, people living in poverty are mostly vulnerable to human trafficking. That's all we know, and basically class and social division, caste, and from my research and also the literature review talks about mostly ethnic communities. Rai, Gurung, not necessarily Gurung, but Rai, Tamang, Limbu, and then also from the caste sections, I don't want to use the word, but it is just literature, people who falls under the caste system, you know, they are mostly vulnerable to human trafficking. We don't use the word touchable and untouchable, but when I try to explain, then we use that. Mostly people from that background, and then also from ethnic community, they are the most vulnerable to human trafficking. And there are so many patriarchal norms that men are trying to normalize, which also women make them, you know, push to trafficking in different ways. And then new colonialism also, and also global capitalism, because mostly in rural areas, we all know that we hardly see youth in rural areas in Nepal. And this is also one of the implications of global capitalism or urbanization, because mostly youth, they move from rural areas to Kathmandu, and then in Kathmandu, when they don't have job and they see somebody, they meet some people and they say that, okay, I have lots of work in India, would you like to go? And they said yes. And then they have no clue where they are when they open their eyes in a brothel. 'em. 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 And yes, and then so my focus is on the green boxes. You can see the green boxes. That's kind of my focus because there are lots of NGOs, organizations, and including government stakeholders. They are doing the root causes, mostly prevention part of human trafficking, and very less focus on reintegration of trafficking survivors who are back from Middle East, who are back from India, who are back from other countries, but they are experiencing lots of violence in their post-trafficking. That's the biggest challenge, and it's really, I think, as a Nepali not necessarily as a Nepali citizen, but as a Nepali heritage, I think this is our ethical responsibility to understand what is happening our women in Nepal, even though we don't live there. And then we can talk about this, we can share this with other people, right? So when it came to my attention that women are suffering in their post-trafficking, that was really interesting story. I just want to give you, I know I have only 20 minutes. Can I share a brief story? Okay, so it was a long time ago before I immigrated to Canada. I had an opportunity to work with women in brothels on the Safe Migration Project, and then I went to Nepal. I went to brothels in India, more than 40 brothels, and then the women I met, they were saying, literally, they were saying, I'm so happy here. I'm making money. And I'm sending money to Nepal for my parents. That's the narratives, okay, in the beginning. And then later, and I look like Indian, I was in Indian Sural, Kurta, so they thought I was an Indian. So we are having our conversation in Indian language, and then for some reasons, I just asked, what part of city from you, Nepal, that time it was not provinces. So it was what kind of district, and they just say A, B, C, D districts, and it's not intentional, not at all. But I just said, oh, तपाईं नेपालबाट हुनुहुन्छ, तपाईं काभ्रेबाट हुनुहुन्छ, तपाईं गोर्खाबाट हुनुहुन्छ. As soon as I said it in my own language, they changed their narratives. They started hugging me, and this is still goosebumps. They started hugging me and said, Didi, please, 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 take us. We lied to you. We don't want to stay here. We got forced to be here. We didn't know we were trafficked, and now we are here, and there is no room for us to go away. And then, as we all know, in India, brothels are legalized. So there is no way that I was in a position to say, okay, let's go. So, and then the overseer of brothels, the lady, she came to me and she said, what language you are speaking? Why? What did you do to make those women cry? And I said, I didn't do anything. I'm just speaking in our language. Are you from Nepal? Yes. So she asked me to leave right away. And I just pretended that I didn't hear you, and I just continued to have conversations with the women. And she got really mad, and she whistled, and then there was two big giant security guards showed up, and you have to leave, like in Hindi. So I felt like I was also kind of unsafe, and then I left. So I got really sick after that, like a secondary, third degree kind of trauma I had, and then I ended up being in hospital for 10 days. Kind of bad. My hands were not moving, my legs were not moving. It was really pathetic situations I went through. Then I got my immigration visa, I came here. But it was ingrained in my mind that how can I work in this area? I don't remember the face of the women I met in brothels, but at the same time, I would love to work in this area, to work with women, to build their capacity so they can work by themselves in the areas. So this is the opportunity. This was the opportunity I was looking for, and then after my doctoral program, during my doctoral program, I decided to do my work with them, and it was since 2010 that I have been continuously working with the women in different capacity, not only research. Now we do community work with them. So, for example, we are doing the Human Rights Day. We are coming on June, and the same day, like on December 1st, some of the trafficking survivors are living with HIV. They wanted to host community event, HIV Day. This is how we do. So this is my commitment to promote gender justice through my research, through my community involvement with the women. This is, at least I can do something with them. And so these are the 4 challenges that women experience in post-trafficking. Believe me, I don't have to explain because we all came from different, same cultural background. So women are not allowed to come to the wedding ceremony or Satyanarayan Puja or Rudri because their own brothers say that don't come to the Rudri today. Just pretend that you are sick. When people are coming, why you are not coming to this? Either you say you are in period or sick because I don't want you come to our Rudri because you are impure. You slept with lots of men in Nepal, in brothel. So that's the narratives coming from their own brothers, own dad, own mother. And some of the women, they were exiled from their community because the community did not want them to stay in their community. And another big piece is that you might not believe, but it was just last January, I came from Nepal. I go 3 times or 2 times to Nepal and do a little bit research and not necessarily research all the time. And this is just last July, 2 women from Hetera, they said that we don't have citizenship because they were trafficked at the age of 7. And we know in Nepal, we don't get our citizenship at the age of 18. Right? That's 60, sorry, yeah. And then now they are back. And they are back, but their dad passed away. Her mom, long time ago, she got married to another man, and then we don't know where exactly they were. So there was no one to claim that she belongs to Nepal. So most of the organizations, Mighty Nepal, Shakti Sammo, are advocating for that. No, हाम्रो चेली हो तर कसले सुन्ने हैन कसले सुन्ने government is so particular that you need evidence or everything for evidence. So women are suffering like they don't have the citizenship, and that's the implications part because there is no citizenship. अनि हामीलाई थाहा छ काम गर्नलाई पनि citizenship देखाउनु पर्छ नि त हैन. अनि स्कुल किन जाने म अब स्कुल गएर जब मसँग सिटिजनशिपै छैन भने म स्कुल गएर के कामै पाउँदिन भने म किन जाने भनेर पढाइ नै छोड्नु भयो के उहाँहरुले. 2 जना गोरखाबाट मात्रै हुनुहुन्छ सरी हेटोडाबाट यति धेरै वुमेनहरुको बिचल्ली भइराखेको छ नेपालमा अहिले. अथवा उहाँहरुको आमा ट्राफिकिङमा पर्नु भएको छ, जन्मिएको छ ब्रथेलमा अनि फर्केर आउनुहुन्छ, आमा हुई मरिसक्नु भयो हैन, फर्केर आउनुहुन्छ, बाबा छैन अनि सिटिजनशिपै छैन. अहिले हेर्नुहुन्छ भने यो प्रिभेन्सनको पार्ट भन्दा प्रोटेक्सनको पार्टमा हामीले धेरै नै जोड दिनुपर्ने देखिएको छ कि उहाँहरुको लाइफ स्टाइल यस्तो नाजुक छ कि त्यसले गर्दा मेन्टल हेल्थमा प्रभाव परिराखेको छ अनि त्यसले गर्दा क्राइम पनि परिराखेको छ हैन. धेरै कुराहरु चाहिँ यो ह्युमन ट्राफिकिङको पोस्ट ट्राफिकिङको केसमा चाहिँ देखे मैले. र अर्को माइक्रो अग्रेसिभ बिहेभियर्स भन्छौँ हामी एन्टी रेसिजमको कुरा गर्यौं. एन्टी रेसिजम भित्रै माइक्रो अग्रेसिभ बिहेभियर्सको कुरा आउँछ. सायद यहाँहरुलाई पनि पढेको होला किन यहाँ बस्दाखेरि हैन हाम्रो कलर आँखा ल्याङ्ग्वेजले गर्दा हामीले रेसिजम भने पनि नभने पनि हजुरहरुले कतिको एक्सेप्ट गर्नुहुन्छ, तर म एक्सेप्ट गर्छु कि इभन एट द पोस्ट सेकेन्डरी इन्स्टिट्युसन I experienced lots of racism in my university, right? I have to do hard twice than other people do. And then when it report comes, you know what they would say? They send me every annual report. They send me a email saying that Rita, you exceeded research, you exceeded services, but we are worried about your mental health. I'm like, don't worry about my mental health. That's called microaggressive behaviors. They are telling me that because they never did the research, international research, lots of work, presentation, right? And then now they are telling me they are worried about my mental health, well-being, how I'm doing because I exceeded everything. Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense to me. So this makes me feel more I want to do more, and I want to do more, right? They don't stop me doing all these kind of things. They even inspire me to do more work. So that's something microaggression behaviors. And then in Nepal, the women who came from brothels, and we had a big media conference, and the women had really long nails. And then one of the media persons said, "Oh, you had a really nice long nail, and you are so beautiful. Did you learn how and then really nice makeup?" And the media person said, "Did you learn this how to make up in brothel?" Who says that? That's the media people. That's men. I'm sorry, I'm not targeting any men here, but he is a man. He came from all this kind of paradigm, right, that he was grown up, and then he asked some very inappropriate questions. It's not only inappropriate, it's a violence actually, in a different way. If we go back to the definition of how UN defined, this is violence. Who asked this question? So that's the situation of our Nepali women in Nepal. And then this part, like the rates, you can see that is cumulative trauma, emotional trauma, biological, physical trauma, social trauma, cognitive trauma, and behavioral trauma. That is also another violence, psychological and mental health well-being. Okay, I'm just going to be very quick. Having said that, you can see the iceberg here. And then in Nepal, there are lots of, I know the guests were talking about, we have these resources, we have this service, we have this service. But how does that policy or legislature has impacted in practice? That was the biggest question for them, right? We do have legislature. In Nepal, we have policy. We have a not human trafficking. We have a human trafficking act 2007, Nepali. We have that. But so what? If it's not necessarily implemented in the manner it should be, right? And then we have an anti-trafficking agency. Thousands of agencies are making money out of that, but it's not community led. And we have shelters. Government has 14 districts. They have shelters in 14 districts, only 14 districts. And then they are also providing so many vocational training. Silai, bunai, jam banaune, papad banaune, all those kind of vocational training. But this is like 30 years ago. That's the training where really appropriate or practice. But now people want to do something different. They want to go to school, they want to be a nurse, they want to be a lawyer, they want to be a doctor, but that's not possible in practice in Nepal. That's really sad actually. And then we have a counseling service. So what service providers and government would say that, no, you know what, we already have all trafficking survivors who came from Middle East, who came from India, they are united with family. They are united because we are talking about the numbers. I know Hemi was talking earlier about numbers. They were talking about numbers. 90 people we send back to their home village. But do they know that how they are living in their home place? Nobody knows, right? There is no research. There is no practice there going back to understand. So they claim that successfully reintegrate our Nepali women who had been in brothels. They are back and they are successfully reintegrated and it's done. Their file is closed. Then they are successfully reintegrated. That's how the narratives are coming. That's the narratives coming from government. That's the narratives coming from agencies who are working on anti-trafficking. But what community trafficking survivors would say, let's hear. They said that they are not acceptance in the community by their own family, by their own brothers, own sisters, own people, and stigma is attached to them, right? So stigma, we know that one man kind of culture, we are grown up, and then now there is lots of stigma attached to this. And then there was another piece, educational piece. They want to be a lawyer, there is no education for them, and then employment. I can tell you a story that one woman, she was really sick, and then she wanted to rest for 5 days. And then she got a call from one of the organizations who is working with anti-trafficking with trafficking survivors in anti-trafficking interventions. They call her and say that you don't have to come back to work. This is the system in Nepal. And then when I went there, they said one time, okay, Rita ji, हामी meeting गर्नुपर्छ. मैले भने हुन्छ meeting गरौँ. अनि we set up a date, and meeting date ma, you are surprised. All men came to that meeting. All men, there was only one, we probably know Charimaya ji, right? She's my good friend. Charimaya ji, and then all men. I was like, what is happening here? Are men trafficked? And then I just found that all in the leadership position, men are working, and they are dictating to the women who have little experience of human trafficking. And they are telling me, don't do this, don't do that. And I have 2 trafficking survivors with me, and they said that you can't tell Rita Didi to tell not to do this because this is our voice. That's not Rita Didi's voice, that's our voice. So men are actually dictating me, don't go to this province, don't go to that province, just stay in this place and do this and do that. And they were saying, that doesn't make any sense because I'm coming from Nuwakot. I want to go to Nuwakot and give some educational, provide some education. So this is the situation in Nepal. And then exclusion, they are excluded from their families, they are excluded from the society, and marriage, nobody wants to get married to them. And even they are married, their life is very unsafe. Their husband, if their husband knows, then they will, every day there is a physical violence and emotional violence by saying that you came from this place. And if you are late, 5 minutes late, you got interrogated, where were you? And then why you asked me? Because I know you were in brothels in Nepal, in India. I know your history. So this is the everyday trauma, everyday violence. Oh, what happened? Is there anything I did wrong? Okay, so this is like people experience domestic violence every single day, either from their intimate partner, from their boyfriend, from their mother-in-laws, father-in-laws. So that's the domestic violence they experience. They have the community violence. So when we talk about gender-based violence, we can see that it has lots of layers. So, and then also structure. Oh, I don't know what I did. So structural violence, I don't know, it's all meshed up, sorry, my apologies for this.
Explain structural violence, yes.
The structural violence, there is a structural violence, government, even they claim that we have a human trafficking act, but it doesn't even clear what human trafficking is. Our human trafficking act in Nepal, it's just so ridiculous to read it. It doesn't really define what human trafficking is, what it would look like. For example, it says that if you are proof that you are human trafficking, then you get certain amount of money. None of the trafficking survivor have received so far, not even 100 rupees. There is a policy, orange paper, orange book, but there is nothing. It's not implemented. So it's just on the book. That's the situations in Nepal. And this is why they say that we are not reintegrated. Don't tell that we are reintegrated. We are doubly victimized. This society pushes us to vulnerable to trafficking. And then when we are back, we are still experiencing domestic violence, community violence, and structural violence. So we are doubly victimized. They are really loud by saying this. And then I would tell you, I don't know why. Oh, okay, I'll do this. So, okay, that's something I wanted to talk about. So that's the story of human trafficking survivors who came back from brothels in India. And now, my responsibility, I'm responsible to promote gender justice through my research and practice. That's something I can contribute to women's life. And you can see that the women, I know we talk about sharing the pictures without their consent, but I already got the consent from all women. So this is the picture, you can see that. This is how I see community late person, because we had an international conference in Nepal, and then they gave me 10 minutes, and then I invited all the women to come at the in front, like to come at the States and then talk about, and everybody was like, what is happening? There's only Rita Dhungel name, but everybody is talking, right? So we just share a little bit, either in Nepali language or English or sort, but anyways, everybody had a role. And they claim that we know how to do research. Don't come anyone to come to do research our life. We can do our research on our own way through this participatory approach. I didn't go through the participatory approach, what it looked like, but that's just that they share, and then they got a small funding from the European government when they were there, like, okay, you can get the funding there to do a small research. So this is how we did the community work there. And then the women, she's actually performing a drama that how she got into trafficking and what happened in brothel. So that's how she was showcasing her stories through drama. And you can see that below, because the women wanted to develop the leadership skills. And that's me coming from all the way from here. And then I always apply for a little bit funding and then go to community and then do some kind of training. I don't do the training, I am not expert, but I always invite people to do some kind of training based on their motivations, based on their aspirations, based on what they would like to do. And one of the examples is that it was 5 years ago we did the training. It's called like economic empowerment. And then now it's really nice to see the picture that she has her own tailor. And she invited her to come to her tailor, and she gave us tea and then a little bit gifts. And that's something I wanted to do. You know, rather than talking about their stories, let's move into actions and do something so they feel they are economically empowered. And they can, and then she's training to other women now. Other women living with HIV, she's providing some training. So that's the powerful example of participatory research action, because they do the research on their own life, and they ask what they want to do, and they move into actions. And this is how I wrote a report to the agency, MIT Nepal, and they got some funding and they provided the training. So it's all in collaboration. One person cannot do anything, right? So it's all like in group. And there is another example that I really want to share with you today. I know Jesse talked about men should be coming as allies, and I can see the allies here, and thank you. I really appreciate all of you, that's right, because it's really important to hear the women's stories by men. Every time, if you notice that, every time we work with victims, we work with survivors, right? Yes, counseling is okay to do with women. Of course, they are the survivors, they need the counseling, but why do we work always with women who are already victims, who are already considered as, see themselves as survivors? So, one of my friends from the University of Calgary and myself, we decided men are perpetrators, that's how we talk, men and boys, and they are traffickers in most cases. Then we need to work with men, not necessarily with women. They are already vulnerable, they are already victims. So this is how we started the initiative, Men's Engagement in Gender Justice Initiative in Nepal, through research. So I have been working with men. We are doing research, but at the same time it's community-based research. So they go to communities, people living with people trafficking survivors. They go to communities, have critical dialogues, and then we dance together, we cry together, and then develop some strategies to continue to work together in future. This is how I have been doing, and you can see that this person, the below on our right, is a mental health specialist in Nepal. He did his PhD from India on mental health, and then he's one of the main group, like he's one of the significant main members in this group, that he's closely working with women living with HIV. He's closely working with trafficking survivors. Even they can call him, and then he can give some counseling over the phone. This is how he has been doing, and this is really important for us to invite men to work with them. Sometimes they don't know how to step in, and this is why we need to invite them. There is a room. If you would like to join us, please feel free to join us. And then also sometimes we need to inspire them why we are doing what we are doing and how we are doing, right? And then you can see on the top is the one is the media person, and the another one is the associate professor with Makanpur University, Makanpur campus in Hyderabad. He came to spend whole day with us. He gave us leadership and motivational speech, and it's just so beautiful. It's very demanding, and then they demanded to do another session, and then we also did one in Kathmandu. So this is why we are bringing men, and then the men, they are giving their phone number and said that if you experience any sexual violence, not only sexual violence, or any domestic violence, any community violence, or any structural violence, call us, because sometimes they don't want to call not 911, something.
100.
In Nepal, 111?
100.
100, thank you. They don't want to call 100 because they don't trust police. There are so many stories, but I'll save for another time. So they don't call police. They don't like police officers because police officers are another perpetrators to push them to do the sexual violence. I have lots of stories that women share with me when they are going through the court, what police said to them, and then how did they handle that. It's really pathetic. So this is how the women are involved, and you can see on the left hand, on the left, there are so many men on the back. This time I invited all the media people from Nepal, all men. I said, I don't want to, it's nice to have women, but I really want to have men media people representing different newspapers, because it's important for them to understand how women are going through. Women, we always, we hear, we are very much like, okay, but at the same time men. So this is really successful initiative, men's involvement in gender justice. And then we also had one conference in Nepal last year in February, Transforming Masculinity Conference, that mostly men came to the conference and talk about what they are doing to promote gender justice. And it's really important, the paradigms have been shifting from patriarchal to like neoliberalism patriarchal way, that okay, we need to support, we need to be out there, not every man are bad, right? That we know that, but they are looking for opportunities to work to promote this, just like Raju sir, when you talk about, okay, let's do that, and this is a great opportunity for us to come and learn. I learned so much from you, from them, and from you, right? This is how we should be doing as an ethical citizen. Okay, I took more than 20 minutes, but this is kind of like actions to call or conclusion. So gender justice requires involving all genders. It's not only women. This is something I really focus on. And then working with men promotes responsibility and positive change. If we don't work with men, then it's really hard. They need to know what's happening on our life. They need to come to the front and work with women in solidarity and change their own individual behaviors, attitudes. That's really important. And then also inclusive approaches, more effective, working together, not working on them. This is not what we do. So this is the participatory approach that we have been doing. And then, yes, I would like to invite you for questions if there is anything. Thank you for listening. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.